She was 5, holding a rusty bicycle no one wanted. He was rich, empty, and walking through a quiet park. When she asked, "Can you be my dad, just for today?" neither knew that one fragile question would heal 2 lonely hearts forever and change they believed about family and home. Luna Harper woke before the sky changed its color. She didn't know the time. She never did. But her body understood the quiet, the kind that only exists when the city hasn't decided to notice people yet. The air was cool, brushing softly against her cheeks as she sat up and folded the piece of cardboard she slept on, slow and careful, like it mattered. Because to her, it did. Luna was 5 years old, small for her age, with hair that never stayed in place, and eyes that watched everything twice. She wore an oversized jacket that once belonged to someone else. It smelled faintly of dust and old soap, but it kept the morning chill away, and that was enough. She tucked the cardboard behind a dumpster, pressing it flat so the wind wouldn't take it. If it disappeared, the ground would feel harder tonight. Luna didn't like thinking about that. Her stomach made a quiet sound. She paused, placing one hand over it, not in complaint, just acknowledgement. Hunger was something she recognized the way other children recognized bedtime. It came and went. It didn't scare her. The streets were empty as Luna began to walk. Store windows were dark. Cars slept along the curbs. This was her favorite time of day, when no one told her to move along, when no one asked questions she didn't know how to answer. For a little while, she could pretend she belonged. She passed a bakery just as the lights inside flickered on. Warm air carrying the smell of fresh bread slipped through the door. Luna slowed, breathing it in her fingers, curling inside her sleeves. She didn't stop. She kept walking. Dreams were easier when you didn't look too long. Ahead, the city stretched awake, unaware that a little girl had already been up for hours, quiet, careful, and unseen. Luna walked with small steps, not because she was tired, but because she had learned that moving quietly made the world gentler. The sidewalks felt wide in the early morning. Too wide. Buildings towered above her, their windows like closed eyes. She looked up at them, sometimes wondering what it felt like to wake up inside one, to have someone say your name out loud. She didn't hurry. There was nowhere she had to be. At a crosswalk, Luna stopped and waited even though no cars were coming. She liked rules. Rules made things predictable. When the light changed, she crossed, counting her steps in her head. 1, 2, 3. She always counted. It made the walk feel shorter. She passed people who didn't notice her joggers with headphones, a man opening a cafe door, a woman carrying flowers wrapped in paper. Luna watched them all with quiet curiosity, as if studying a story she wasn't part of yet. Her hands felt cold, so she tucked them deeper into her sleeves. The jacket swallowed her arms, but she didn't mind. It made her feel smaller, safer. Near the end of the block, she slowed again. This part of the street felt familiar. Behind a small restaurant was an alley she knew well. Sometimes there were things left behind, nothing important to anyone else but useful to her. Luna never rushed when she looked. She believed that if you were patient, good things might wait for you. She stepped into the alley, the sounds of the city fading behind her. The air smelled different here, old metal, damp concrete yesterday. Luna wrinkled her nose, then smiled a little. This place had surprises. She knelt beside a row of bags, her movements careful, respectful. She didn't tear anything open. She didn't make a mess. She searched the way someone searches for answers, not leftovers. Her fingers brushed paper. Plastic. Then something cold. Luna froze. She wrapped her hand around it slowly, unsure of what she might find, her heart beating just a little faster than before. Luna pulled gently, afraid the object might disappear if she startled it. What emerged from the bag wasn't food. It wasn't broken plastic or loose paper. It was metal, solid, real, and when she saw it fully, her breath caught. A bicycle. It was small, almost her size. The red paint was faded and chipped, and there were spots of rust along the frame, but it had two wheels, pedals, handlebars, everything a bicycle was supposed to have. Luna stared at it, unmoving, as if it might roll away on its own. She reached out and touched the handlebar with one finger. It didn't vanish. She placed her whole hand on it, feeling the cool metal, the tiny bumps where the paint had worn thin. Her other hand followed, gripping tighter, just to be sure. It was still there. Luna had seen bicycles before, bright ones, fast ones ridden by laughing children in the park. She had never imagined touching one. Never imagined having one this close. Slowly, carefully, she pulled it free from the bag. The wheels made a soft creaking sound as they touched the ground. Luna smiled, a small private smile meant only for herself. She walked around it, inspecting every part. The seat was torn, but it was soft. The pedals were stiff, but they turned. The tires were worn, but they held. It worked. Luna hugged the handlebars to her chest, resting her cheek against the frame. It smelled like metal and dust and something else, possibility. For the first time in her short life, Luna had found something that was whole. Not a piece. Not something missing parts. Something complete. She pushed the bicycle out of the alley, the wheels wobbling as if unsure of their new direction. Luna didn't mind. She wasn't in a hurry. Ahead, the park waited, and with it, a morning that was about to change everything. Luna pushed the bicycle slowly, listening to the soft, uneven sound of its wheels. The noise didn't bother her. In fact, she liked it. It made the bike feel alive, like it was waking up with her. The handlebars were a little too high, so she had to stand on her tiptoes to guide it properly. She didn't complain. She adjusted. She always did. As she moved down the street, her thoughts began to race faster than her feet. A bicycle meant the park. Not the edges of it, not the shadows near the benches where she usually stayed, but the middle, where children played, where laughter traveled freely through the air. With a bike, maybe people wouldn't look at her twice. Maybe they'd just see a girl with a bike. A normal girl. She passed a bakery again, this time closer. The smell of warm bread wrapped around her like a blanket. Her stomach tightened, but she didn't stop. She glanced down at the bike instead, running her fingers along the peeling paint. This was hers. No one had given it to her. No one could take it back. She imagined herself riding it, hair-flying feet, pushing the pedals just like the kids she watched from afar. She imagined racing someone and laughing so hard her sides hurt. She imagined someone calling out to her not to move away, not to be careful, but to come closer. The road dipped slightly, and Luna had to lean her weight into the bike to keep it steady. She managed step by step, her face set with quiet determination. 5-year-old legs, small but stubborn. At a stop, she sat on the curb and tested the pedals with her hands. They turned slowly, stiff at first, then easier. Luna smiled wide, her cheeks, lifting eyes shining. It could really move. She stood again, brushing her hands on her jacket, and continued forward. Ahead, between trees and early sunlight, she could see the edge of the park. Her heart beat faster, not with fear, but with something new. Hope. The park was quiet when Luna arrived. Not empty, just resting. Tall trees stretched their shadows across the grass, and the morning light filtered through leaves painted gold and green. The benches were still cold. The paths were clear. It felt like a place waiting to be chosen. Luna guided the bicycle toward her favorite bench beneath a wide oak tree. She leaned the bike carefully against it, adjusting the angle until it stood just right. When she was satisfied, she sat down beside it, close enough to touch. She didn't climb on it yet. Instead, she studied it again, as if memorizing every detail. The rust spots, the loose bell that didn't ring, the worn tires that had seen many roads before hers. It wasn't perfect, but neither was she, and maybe that was why it felt right. Luna hugged her knees to her chest and watched the empty paths. Soon other children would arrive with parents' snacks, bright backpacks, and shiny bikes. She usually left before that happened. Today she stayed. She imagined herself riding past them, slow at first, then faster. Imagined someone smiling at her not out of pity, but because she belonged there too. She practiced what she might say if someone spoke to her. "Hi, my name is Luna." The words felt strange but warm. She stood and placed one foot on a pedal, holding the bench for balance. The bike wobbled immediately, and she stepped back down, heart racing. Luna frowned, then breathed out slowly. It was okay. She could try again later. She wasn't in a hurry. Sunlight crept higher, warming her hands. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. A jogger passed by without looking twice. The park began to stir. Luna rested her forehead against the handlebars and closed her eyes. For a moment, she felt like any other child waiting for a day to begin. Ethan Cross arrived at the park later than usual. He wore a tailored coat, clean shoes, and the faint expression of someone who hadn't slept well. At 36, Ethan had learned how to look successful without effort. People admired that about him. They didn't ask questions. He chose a bench near the path, unfolded a newspaper, and pretended to read. The words blurred together. His apartment was full of things, expensive things, but none of them had made the morning feel lighter. The silence there had followed him out the door, settling in his chest, like a weight he couldn't name. Ethan had built companies, solved problems, signed contracts worth more than he'd ever imagined as a child. Still, something felt unfinished. As if his life were paused on a page he kept skipping. He lowered the paper, rubbing his hands together against the chill. That's when he heard it. A soft, uneven sound. Metal brushing against stone. Ethan looked up. A little girl stood near a bench under the oak tree. She was very small, too small to be alone, his mind noted automatically. Her jacket hung past her hands. Beside her was an old bicycle, leaning awkwardly, as if unsure of its place in the world. The girl wasn't crying. She wasn't asking for anything. She was just standing there, watching the bike as if it were something precious. Ethan's breath caught, though he didn't know why. There was something about the way she held herself, careful, quiet, older than her years, that stirred a memory he hadn't touched in a long time. A memory of being small and invisible in places meant for bigger people. He folded the newspaper slowly. The girl glanced up, their eyes meeting for the briefest moment. She looked away, first her fingers tightening around the handlebars. Ethan didn't move. But something inside him did. And without realizing it, he knew his morning, his life had just taken a different direction. Luna felt his presence before she looked again. It was the feeling of being seen, not stared at, not judged, just noticed. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, fingers tightening around the bicycle's handlebar. The park no longer felt empty. It felt awake. Ethan remained on his bench, still as if any sudden movement might break something delicate. From where he sat, he could see the small details most people missed, the way Luna stood slightly in front of the bike, protective. The way she kept her chin lifted even though her shoulders were tense. The way her eyes moved between the ground and the path ahead, measuring the world. She wasn't lost. She was waiting. Ethan cleared his throat softly, more to steady himself than to get her attention. Luna glanced up again. This time she didn't look away immediately. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, recognition without explanation. Neither smiled. The bicycle made a faint creak as Luna adjusted it. She seemed to be building courage piece by piece, like stacking small stones into something tall enough to stand behind. Ethan felt a strange pull in his chest. He had known this feeling once long ago, standing in a room full of adults, hoping one of them would choose to stay. He stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible, his posture open. He took one step forward, then stopped, leaving space between them. "Hi," he said gently. Luna's lips parted, then closed. She nodded once. Not yes, just acknowledgement. Ethan noticed how young she really was, 5 maybe, an age that belonged with crayons and storybooks, not quiet benches and rusty bicycles. He didn't ask where her parents were. He didn't ask why she was alone. Instead, he gestured lightly toward the bike. "Is that yours?" Luna hesitated. Then she nodded again, firmer this time. She placed her hand on the handlebar as if to prove it. "Yes," she said. Her voice was soft but steady. Something in Ethan's chest tightened. He smiled, not wide, not overwhelming, just enough to feel safe. "It's a good one," he said. Luna looked at the bike. Then for the first time, she smiled too. There was a long pause after that. Not an awkward one, a thoughtful one. Luna stared at the ground, her shoe tracing a small circle in the dirt. The question sat heavy inside her, pressing against her ribs. She had practiced it in her head before. Many times. It always sounded braver there. Ethan waited. He sensed something important was coming. Not dramatic, not loud, but something that could change the shape of the day. He lowered himself slightly, resting his hands on his knees, bringing himself closer to her height, without crowding her space. Luna took a breath, then another. "All kids have someone," she said slowly, choosing each word with care. "Someone who shows them how." Ethan didn't interrupt. She lifted her eyes to him, and for a moment her age showed clearly. 5 years old, hopeful, afraid. "I found the bike this morning," Luna continued. "I tried to ride it, but I can't. Do it alone." Her fingers curled into the sleeve of her jacket. "They always have someone holding it," she whispered, "just at the start." Ethan felt the words land deeper than he expected. Luna swallowed, then looked straight at him. Her voice didn't shake, but her hands did. "Can you be my dad?" she asked, "just for today?" The world seemed to pause. Ethan didn't answer right away. His mind raced with questions he didn't ask, worries he pushed aside. What mattered was the look in front of him, not desperation, not demand, but a simple, fragile trust. Just for today. He exhaled slowly, as if letting go of a life that suddenly felt smaller. "I can," he said quietly. "If you want me to." Luna blinked. "Really?" Ethan nodded. "Really?" Her face changed instantly. Not loud joy. Something softer, safer. Like a door opening inside her that she hadn't known how to reach. She pushed the bicycle toward him, careful, reverent. "Okay," she said. "Then, I'm ready." Ethan positioned the bicycle on a flat stretch of path away from benches and trees. He tested the brakes, adjusted the seat slightly, and nodded to himself. The bike was old, but solid. Honest. Luna watched every movement closely. "Have you done this before?" Ethan asked. Luna shook her head. "I watched," she said. "A lot." "That's a good start," he replied. She climbed onto the seat carefully, her small hands gripping the handlebars. Her feet barely reached the pedals. The bike wobbled immediately, and Luna froze, her breath catching. "I've got you," Ethan said calmly, placing one hand on the back of the seat and the other lightly against her shoulder. "I won't let you fall." Luna nodded, though her whole body was tense. "Look ahead," he continued. "Not down. The bike goes where you look." She stared forward, eyes wide, focused. 1, 2, 3. Luna began to pedal. The wheels rolled slowly, at first uneven but moving. Ethan walked beside her, matching her pace, steady and patient. The bike swayed, but he held firm. "That's it," he encouraged. "You're doing it." They tried again, and again. Each time Luna went a little farther. Each time her grip loosened just a bit. The fear didn't vanish, but it changed. It became concentration. On the 5th try, something shifted. Luna pedaled faster. The bike steadied. Ethan felt the weight lessen under his hand. Without realizing it, he eased his grip. "Keep going," he said, heart pounding. Luna did. Then she laughed, one clear, surprised sound that rang through the park. I'm doing it, she shouted. Ethan stopped. She rode on for several more feet before slowing to a halt, breathless, smiling eyes bright with disbelief. I really did it, she said softly, as if afraid the moment might disappear. Ethan smiled back deeper than he had in years. Yes, he said, you really did. And in that instant, something fragile but powerful was born. Not just balance, but trust. Luna stood beside the bicycle chest, rising and falling quickly, as if she had just discovered something important about the world and about herself. She kept smiling, then stopping, then smiling again, unsure if it was allowed to last. Her hands hovered near the handlebars, afraid to touch too hard, afraid the moment might fade if she did. Ethan watched her closely. There was a kind of joy he hadn't seen in years, not loud, not demanding. It was careful joy, the kind that checks first to see if it's safe. You want to try again? He asked. Luna nodded immediately. Yes, please. This time she climbed onto the bike with more confidence. Ethan held the seat again, but lighter now, just enough to reassure. She pedaled. The wheels turned smoother than before, as if they remembered what to do. Look ahead, he reminded her. She did. The path stretched in front of her, sunlit and open. Luna pedaled farther than before. 10 feet, 15, 20. She laughed again, louder this time, the sound spilling freely into the air. Ethan jogged beside her, then slowed. And then he let go. Luna didn't notice at first. She was too focused on moving forward, on staying upright, on the wind brushing her cheeks. When she finally realized she was riding alone, she gasped. I'm doing it by myself. She wobbled, then steadied. Her small feet kept turning the pedals. The bicycle moved forward as if it belonged to her. She stopped at the end of the path, jumping off with a little hop. She turned around, eyes wide, face glowing. Did you see? She asked. Did you really see? Ethan felt something tighten in his throat. He nodded, smiling fully now. I saw everything. They practiced for nearly an hour. Luna fell once, softly, gently, then stood up again without tears. Each time she grew braver. Each time Ethan praised her, not for being fast, but for trying. When she finally rested sitting in the grass beside the bike, she leaned back on her hands and looked up at the sky. I didn't know I could do that, she said quietly. Ethan sat beside her. You can do a lot of things, he replied. Luna nodded, absorbing the words like they were something she might keep. For the first time that day, she wasn't just riding a bike. She was beginning to believe in herself. They sat beneath the oak tree as the sun drifted lower. Luna traced shapes in the grass with her fingers, calm now, content in a way that made time slow down. The bicycle rested beside her, leaned carefully against the bench, as if it were part of the scene. Ethan checked his watch, surprised by how much time had passed. It didn't feel wasted. It felt right. Luna shifted slightly, then spoke without looking up. I'm hungry, she said. It wasn't a complaint, just a statement, simple, honest. Ethan felt his chest tighten, not with panic, but with clarity. He had expected this moment. He was ready for it. There's a diner across the street, he said gently. Would you like to eat something? Luna's eyes lifted, cautious. Really, really? She nodded quickly, then paused. Can I bring the bike? Of course, Ethan said, smiling. We'll keep it close. They walked together to the small diner, Luna pushing the bike carefully, stopping whenever it wobbled. Ethan matched her pace without rushing. Inside, the air smelled warm and comforting. He ordered something simple, a sandwich, fruit juice. When the food arrived, Luna stared at it as if it were something fragile. For me, she asked. All for you. She ate slowly, carefully, as if savoring each bite mattered. Ethan watched without staring, noticing the way she saved the apple for last, the way she wiped her hands neatly on a napkin. When she finished, she sat back satisfied, her shoulders relaxing. Thank you, she said quietly. Ethan nodded. You're welcome. They returned to the park as the light softened into gold. Luna walked more slowly now, the excitement settling into something warm and tired. At the edge of the path, she stopped. "I have to go soon," she said. Ethan's heart skipped. He didn't ask where. He didn't push. "Okay," he replied. "I understand." Luna looked at him, uncertainty flickering across her face. She hesitated, then smiled, small, brave. "Thank you for today," she said. "It was really nice." Ethan swallowed. "It was," he agreed. "Very nice." She pushed the bike away, glancing back once. Just once. Ethan stood still, watching until she disappeared down the path. The park fell quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. It felt unfinished. Ethan's apartment greeted him with stillness. Everything was exactly where it should be. Clean lines, polished surfaces, quiet luxury, and yet it felt emptier than it had that morning. He placed his keys down, then paused, listening. Nothing. He turned on a light, then another. The glow filled the rooms, but it didn't warm them. Ethan moved through the space, slowly replaying the day in his mind, the sound of laughter, the careful way Luna held the bike, the question she had asked. Just for today. He sat on the couch and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come. When he closed his eyes, he saw Luna riding forward, unsteady but determined. He remembered his own childhood quiet rooms, borrowed kindness, waiting. He hadn't thought about it in years, until today. Ethan stood and walked to the window. The city lights shimmered below. Somewhere out there, Luna was ending her day. He wondered if she was safe, if she was warm, if she was thinking about the bike the way he was thinking about her. He returned to the couch and sat down again, this time with resolve. Tomorrow he would go back to the park. He didn't know what he would say. He didn't know what was possible. But he knew one thing. Today hadn't been enough. Ethan turned off the lights and headed toward his bedroom. As he lay down, the weight in his chest shifted, not heavier, but sharper, clearer. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel alone. He felt needed. And that feeling stayed with him long after the city went quiet, waiting for morning. Ethan woke before his alarm. For a moment he lay still, staring at the ceiling, unsure why his heart was already racing. Then the memory surfaced, clear and sharp. A small girl, a rusty bicycle, a laugh that had cut through years of quiet. Luna. He sat up immediately. The morning routine he had perfected over years dissolved. Coffee tasted like nothing. His jacket felt too heavy, his steps too fast. He checked the time twice, then once more, as if arriving early might somehow help. The walk to the park felt longer than it ever had before. Ethan scanned the paths the moment he arrived. Joggers, dog walkers, a man reading on a bench. For a brief second, disappointment flickered in his chest. Then he saw her. Luna sat beneath the same oak tree, legs dangling from the bench. The bicycle was beside her, upright, close, her hand resting on the handlebar, as if it needed reassurance. She looked smaller than yesterday, quieter. When she looked up and saw Ethan, everything changed. Her face lit up so suddenly it startled him. The careful stillness vanished, replaced by pure recognition. She slid off the bench and hurried toward him, pushing the bike with quick, excited steps. "You came back," she said, almost breathless. Ethan smiled, relief washing through him. "I said I would." Luna nodded, but her fingers tightened around the handlebar. "I thought maybe you forgot." "I didn't," he said gently. "Not even for a minute." They walked back to the bench together. Luna kept glancing up at him as if checking to make sure he was real. Ethan noticed the faint shadows beneath her eyes, the way she leaned slightly toward the bike, anchoring herself. "Did you sleep okay?" he asked. Luna hesitated. "A little," she said. Ethan didn't push. He had learned that silence sometimes meant trust. They sat quietly for a moment, the park slowly filling with sound. Then Luna spoke again, softer this time. "I waited," she said, "just in case. Something inside Ethan shifted. He looked at the small girl beside him, 5 years old, brave in ways that mattered, and felt a certainty settle deep in his chest. He hadn't just come back to the park. He had come back for her. They sat together as the park brightened. Luna traced the edge of the bench with her finger following the grain of the wood. Ethan watched her carefully, sensing that something important was near the surface, unspoken, fragile. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "You can tell me anything," Ethan replied, keeping his voice calm. She nodded, then took a breath. "I sleep near a store," she said slowly. "Behind it." Ethan didn't react. He didn't let his expression change. He knew this moment wasn't about him. "There's a big box," Luna continued, "from a refrigerator. It keeps the wind out, mostly." She glanced at him, checking for alarm. There was none. Only attention. "It's quiet at night," she added. "Too quiet sometimes." Ethan felt the words settle in his chest, heavy but clear. He imagined it not with fear, not with images, but with understanding. A child alone with her thoughts. "Do you feel safe there?" he asked gently. Luna thought for a moment. "I'm careful," she said. That answer said everything. Ethan nodded. "Thank you for telling me." She seemed relieved, not because the situation had changed, but because she had been heard. They sat in silence for a while longer. Then Ethan spoke. "Would you like to come with me today?" he asked. "Just for today." Luna's head snapped up. "We're my home," he said simply. "You can take a warm bath, eat, rest, and you can bring the bike." Her eyes widened. "Really, yes," Ethan said. "Only if you want to." Luna looked down at the bicycle, then back at him. "I want to," she whispered. They walked side by side through the city. Luna held the bike with one hand, Ethan's hand with the other. Her grip was firm, not desperate, but cautious, like someone crossing a bridge she hoped would hold. At the apartment building, Luna stared up in awe. "You live up there?" "I do," Ethan replied. Inside, she paused at the doorway, taking in the space slowly. Clean, bright, quiet in a different way. "You can come in," Ethan said softly. She stepped forward, and just like that, the world became larger and safer than Luna had ever known. Luna stood just inside the apartment, unsure where to put her feet. The floor felt smooth beneath her shoes. The air smelled warm, faintly like coffee. Everything looked untouched, as if it were waiting for her permission. "You can put the bike here," Ethan said, pointing gently. She leaned it against the wall with great care, adjusting it twice to make sure it wouldn't fall. Only then did she relax just a little. "Would you like a bath?" Ethan asked. "The water's warm." Luna's eyes widened. "Warm, warm, yes," he smiled. "As warm as you like." In the bathroom, she held her hand under the running water and laughed softly. The sound echoed light and surprised. When she came out later wrapped in a towel, her hair clean and damp, she looked different, not because she had changed, but because something heavy had lifted. Ethan prepared a simple meal. Rice, chicken, vegetables. Luna watched from the table, swinging her feet gently. When the plate was set in front of her, she stared for a moment. "This is for me, all for you." She ate slowly, savoring each bite, her shoulders loosening with every mouthful. Afterward, Ethan handed her a notebook and a box of colored pencils. "For you," he said. Luna opened the notebook carefully, touching the blank page with reverence. "It's new," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan replied. "You can use all of it," she smiled. As evening settled, Luna grew quiet. She sat on the couch, hugging her knees. "Do I have to go back tonight?" she asked softly. Ethan's heart tightened. He sat beside her. "You don't have to decide anything right now," he said. "You can stay, rest. We'll figure out tomorrow together." Luna leaned against him just a little. "Okay," she said. That night, as she slept peacefully on the couch with the bike nearby, Ethan sat awake watching over her. The door to his life, once firmly closed, had opened, and he knew without doubt he would never close it again. The apartment was quiet in a different way at night. Not empty, just still. Ethan sat in the armchair near the couch, the only lamp on casting a soft circle of light across the room. Luna slept curled on her side, one small arm wrapped around the bicycle's handlebar, as if letting go even in sleep felt risky. Her breathing was slow at first, even. Then it changed. Ethan noticed the shift immediately. Her brow tightened, her fingers twitched. A faint sound escaped her lips, not a cry, not a scream, just a broken breath. "Luna," he said softly. She stirred but didn't wake. Her breathing grew uneven, her shoulders trembling beneath the blanket. Ethan stood and moved closer, careful not to startle her. He knelt beside the couch. "It's okay," he murmured. "You're safe." Her eyes opened suddenly. For a split second they were filled with panic, wide, searching, lost. She sat up quickly, clutching the bicycle to her chest, breath coming fast. "You're here," she whispered. "I'm here," Ethan said immediately. "I didn't go anywhere." Her eyes darted around the room as if the walls themselves might disappear. The lamp, the couch, the window, everything was still there. "I dreamed." Her voice cracked, then steadied. "I dreamed I woke up and it was morning and I was back again." Ethan sat beside her, close, but not overwhelming. "Back where?" "In the quiet place," she said, choosing her words carefully. "Where no one talks." She hugged the bicycle tighter. "I thought maybe today wasn't real," Luna continued. "Like when you find something nice and then wake up." Ethan felt a deep ache spread through his chest, not sharp but heavy. He gently rested his hand on the couch near hers, letting her choose the distance. "Do you want me to stay with you for a bit?" he asked. She nodded instantly. "Until I fall asleep." "I'll stay as long as you need." Luna leaned against him slowly, cautiously, as if testing whether he would pull away. He didn't. She relaxed just enough. "Everyone leaves," she said quietly, "even when they don't want to." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. Then he spoke. "There's something I want to tell you," he said. "Only if you want to hear it." She looked up at him. "I want to." Ethan took a slow breath. "When I was little," he began, "I didn't live with my parents." Luna's grip on the bicycle loosened slightly. "I lived in a place with other kids," he continued. "A place where everyone was waiting. Waiting for what she asked. For someone to choose them," Ethan said simply. He stared at the wall, not because he couldn't look at her, but because the memories came more clearly that way. "I was about your age," he said. 5, maybe 6. Every week new adults would come. They would smile, ask questions, play games. Luna listened without interrupting. "And every week," he went on, "I thought, maybe this time." His voice remained calm, but Luna could hear the weight beneath it. Sometimes they stayed all afternoon. Sometimes they said nice things. And then they left. Luna's eyes filled not with fear, but recognition. "I used to think it was my fault," Ethan said. "That if I was quieter or better or different, someone would stay." He shook his head gently. "It wasn't." "Did you feel lonely?" Luna asked. "Yes," he answered without hesitation. "Very." She leaned closer, but one day Ethan continued, "An older couple came. They didn't rush. They didn't ask many questions. They just sat with me." "What happened?" Luna whispered. "They came back," he said. "Again and again." Her breath caught. "And one day they told me I was their son." Luna stared at him wide-eyed. "Were you scared?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan smiled softly. "Even then, I was scared it would disappear." "Did it?" "No," he said firmly. They stayed. Luna hugged the bicycle again, but not as tightly. "Did the scary dreams stop?" she asked. Slowly, Ethan replied. Not all at once, but every time I woke up, they were still there. He looked down at her. That's how I know how you feel, he said. Because I've been there. Luna's breathing slowed. So, I'm not weird, she asked. No, Ethan said gently. You're brave. She considered that for a moment. Will you stay if I get scared again? She asked. Yes, he said. Every time. She nodded, and for the first time since waking, her shoulders relaxed completely. They sat in silence for a while, the kind that no longer hurt. Luna yawned, her eyelids heavy now. She leaned fully against Ethan, trusting the space between them. Can I ask something? She murmured. Anything. If I sleep, she said slowly, will you still be here when I wake up? Ethan didn't hesitate. Yes. How do you know? She asked. Because I'm choosing to stay, he said, and I don't change my mind about things like that. Luna thought about this carefully, then nodded. Okay. She shifted on the couch, settling back down. Ethan pulled the blanket up gently, careful not to disturb her. She kept one hand on the bicycle, the other resting loosely near his arm. Her eyes fluttered closed. Just before sleep took her, she whispered, Thank you for telling me your story. Ethan smiled. Thank you for listening. Minutes passed, then more. Luna's breathing deepened, even and calm, her face smoothed free of worry. She slept without holding her breath. Ethan stayed where he was. He didn't look at his phone. He didn't think about work. He watched the small rise and fall of her chest, the quiet peace that had finally found her. In that stillness, something inside him became clear. This wasn't kindness anymore. This was responsibility. This was love. He understood then that whatever came next, questions, plans, paperwork, patience, he would face it. Not tomorrow. Now. Ethan shifted slightly, careful not to wake her, and whispered a promise meant only for himself, I'm not leaving. The night passed, and for the first time in many years, both of them slept without fear of morning. Morning light entered the apartment gently, like it knew it wasn't supposed to rush. Luna slept on the couch, still and peaceful, her hair fanned across the pillow. The bicycle stood nearby, leaned neatly against the wall. It looked less like an object now, and more like a witness. Ethan had been awake for a while. He sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee growing cold in his hands, watching the doorway that led to the living room. The night's conversation replayed in his mind, not as worry, but as clarity. He felt steady in a way he hadn't felt before. This wasn't impulse, it was recognition. When Luna stirred and opened her eyes, she didn't panic. She didn't search the room. She simply blinked, saw Ethan, and smiled. You're still here, she said. I am, he replied. She sat up, slowly rubbing her eyes. Does that mean today is real too? Ethan stood and knelt in front of her, meeting her gaze at eye level. Today is very real. They ate breakfast together, simple, warm, unhurried. Luna listened to the sounds of the apartment like they were part of a new language she was learning. Afterward, Ethan brought out the notebook and colored pencils again. While Luna drew, Ethan made a phone call. He spoke quietly, respectfully, asked questions, listened carefully. He didn't promise anything he couldn't do. He asked about the right steps, about time, about doing this the right way. When he ended the call, Luna was watching him from the couch. What were you doing? She asked. I was asking how to make sure you're safe, he said honestly. All the time. She considered that. Like, really safe. Yes. Luna nodded once. Okay. Later that morning, they went back to the park, not to repeat yesterday, but to confirm it. Luna rode the bike again, steadier now, circling the path while Ethan watched. She waved at him each time she passed. At one point, she stopped and walked the bike over. Are you coming back tomorrow? She asked. Yes, he said. And the day after, she pressed. Yes. She studied his face, searching for cracks, Finding none, she smiled and returned to the path. Ethan watched her go and felt the final doubt leave him. This wasn't about saving someone. It was about choosing each other and not turning back. The days that followed settled into a quiet rhythm. Ethan worked from home more often. Luna spent mornings drawing, afternoons practicing her bike in the park. Nothing dramatic happened, and that was the point. Stability grew in the ordinary. A social worker visited the apartment one morning. She spoke calmly, kindly, asking simple questions. Luna stayed close to Ethan but answered honestly. She talked about the bike, the warm food, the quiet nights. "Do you feel safe here?" the woman asked. Luna looked at Ethan, then nodded. "Yes." "Do you want to stay?" she asked next. Luna didn't hesitate. "Forever." The woman smiled and made a note. There were forms, appointments, conversations that took patience. Ethan explained each step to Luna without overwhelming her, never promising shortcuts, never hiding the truth. "This takes time," he said, "but I'm not going anywhere." Luna believed him not because of words, but because of consistency. Every morning he was there. Every night the lights stayed on until she fell asleep. One afternoon, Luna grew quiet again. She sat beside Ethan on the couch, her knees pulled close. "What if they say no?" she asked softly. Ethan turned to her. "Then we keep going. We don't stop caring." "Will you still stay?" she asked. "Yes," he said, without pause. That night she slept without holding the bicycle. Weeks passed, then came the call. Ethan answered with steady hands. He listened, asked one clarifying question, then closed his eyes as relief washed through him. When he hung up, Luna was standing in the doorway. "Is everything okay?" she asked. He knelt down, smiling fully now. "Everything is more than okay." She tilted her head. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said carefully, "that the people who make the rules agree with what we already know." Her eyes widened. "Which is that we're a family." Luna's breath caught. "Really?" she whispered. "Really?" She launched into his arms, hugging him tightly, not in fear, not in desperation, but in certainty. Ethan held her back, knowing something had finally settled into place. The waiting was over, and trust had won. The park looked different that afternoon. Not because it had changed, but because they had. Luna rode a new bicycle now. Light blue with a small basket and a bell that rang clearly. She circled the path with confidence, her laughter carrying across the grass. Ethan stood nearby, hands in his pockets, watching with quiet pride. A woman walking her dog paused beside him. "She looks happy," she said. "She is," Ethan replied. "Is she your daughter?" Ethan watched Luna glide past, hair lifting in the breeze, eyes bright. He didn't hesitate. "Yes," he said. "She is." Luna stopped and ran over. "Dad," she said, using the word easily now. "Can we go home after one more lap?" "Of course," he smiled. "Take your time." She rang the bell and rode off again. When they finally walked back together, Luna pushed the bike with one hand and held Ethan's hand with the other. The grip wasn't tight. It didn't need to be. At the apartment, Luna parked the bike neatly and looked around the living room. Her drawings decorated the table. Her shoes sat by the door. "This is my house," she said softly. "Yes," Ethan replied. "It is." She nodded, satisfied. That evening, as the sun dipped low and the city lights began to glow, Luna curled up on the couch with her notebook. Ethan sat nearby, reading. After a moment, she looked up. "Dad, yes, Luna. Thank you for coming back to the park." He smiled. "Thank you for waiting." She thought about that, then returned to her drawing a house with two figures standing at the door, the sun high above them. Outside, the city continued on, unaware of the quiet miracle that had taken place. Inside, a child and a father shared a home, not because the world had changed, but because they had found where they belonged. Together. Did this story leave a lasting impression on you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment, rate it from 1 to 10, and tap the end screen to see another heartwarming story waiting for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, then tap the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Until our next story.